5, 4.
What a hell of a beat right there by Mr. Nick Skalba. We miss you, brother. Loving the West Coast, I take it, and obviously producing some hot beats, brother. Big ups to you, my man. Welcome back to the Fantasy Hustle. I'm host Jon G with my other host, Brad D. And we got Stretton on the ones and twos. What's up, Stretton? How you doing today?
Oh, hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Brad, how you doing, brother?
Good.
Good.
Finally
3-0, huh? 3-0.
Well, my fantasy team finally got a win, and yeah, still Miami's still rolling, so pretty good. And told the wife I wasn't shaving the mustache until the Dolphins lost. So
She likes that.
So she told me, so you'll be shaving it this afternoon. And Oakland came in, and we took care of business. So
What do you think, Stretton? You think she likes it?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with football.
Well, to get back into football here, we had a pretty interesting week. It's a pretty bizarro week, to say the least. Hella upsets, hella new quarterbacks, hella milestones, to say the least. But just get back into it. We talked about some upsets here. I tell you what, man. NFC North, I thought it was going to be a triage over there once Bears started. I'm like, ooh, Minnesota lost, Green Bay lost. I'm like, Bears could be in first here. Then they go down 14-0. I'm like, oh, shit.
yeah, that division was very odd this week. I mean, the Vikings, huge favorites, and they got beat pretty handily by the Bills. Packers, big favorites, they lost. And then Lions, big underdogs, and they won. So that division was part of 3 of the biggest upsets of the week, and almost 4.
Definitely. And the Bills, I still couldn't believe it once I saw that Bill score. I kept changing it back. I'm like, really? Minnesota just having that shitty of a game, huh? And, Packers, obviously, Skins came out of nowhere. AP showed back up, touching into that fountain of youth there.
He likes running against Green Bay, and, well, he likes running against the NFC North. In his time in Minnesota, he ran all over those teams and got a good chance against Green Bay, and he woke up.
Definitely got some good yardage there. Good yardage here. Hopefully, could be a guy potentially that could be some trade bait, People are on the sell high for him right now. We'll see what happens here, but I own him in the league, and I'm definitely going to hold on to him because the rest of my team is on the IR. So it is what it is. Titans surprising everybody and taking down Jacksonville, even when their starter goes out and they bring in old gimpy arm Mariota.
Yeah, that's that's an interesting thing there because Mariota coming off the bench, they're kind of lifting them up and bringing them at least down for 3 field goals was huge because playing Gabbert, let's face it, I mean, he's right up there with some of the worst quarterbacks in the league right now, backups and stuff like that. And he shouldn't ever have an opportunity to be starting games, and just because of an injury, and it's just how the NFL is. You don't go out there and find the next guy like in the CFL or Arena League or anything like that. It's just, this guy's been in the NFL before, let's have him be our backup. And basically with the backup quarterbacks, if you have to go to them, your season's pretty much over. Yeah. But, Mariota was able to get in there and do just enough. It wasn't anything spectacular. But, yeah, the Jaguars coming off that huge win, drop an egg and
beat up Fournette. That was someone I called early in the year, and I had a couple chances at snagging him, and I stayed away. A lot of people talk some smack, and it's like, listen, the guy missed 4 games last year. The trend will continue here. I know he had problems in college, too, as far as staying healthy. So that's something that Yeldon owners definitely got to hold on to him. Definitely stash him because, you got a good play out of Yeldon this week and possibly could be a couple more this year for sure. So the Packers, Minnesota, and Jacksonville all went out. We talked about the Lions. Matt Patricia getting revenge on his old boss, huh?
Yeah, that was a huge surprise because, one, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick together, they don't lose back-to-back games. I think they have now like 11 losses following a loss. So, I mean, they're like something like 40-11, something like that following a loss. And they're span together here, and most of those losses came like in the 2002, 2003 season, whatever that was, the year they weren't in the Super Bowl, where they were like 8-8, 9-7, something like that. So the last few years, during the real dynasty run for them, from their second Super Bowl till now, they just don't lose back-to-back games.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting that at all. They're so wishy-washy here. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe 500 when it all comes said and done, but definitely someone that the teams in the NFC North need to kind of keep in the back of their minds, like, oh,
Yeah.
these guys come out and surprise us because they've done it to everyone else. So be interesting to see here. Definitely interesting to see here. One more upset, I thought. I mean, some people say it's not an upset, but I think that definitely the better team didn't win, and that's Baltimore beating the Broncos. Broncos have got a pretty solid defense, and bringing Keenum in with Emmanuel Sanders, who's just having a hell of a year, hell of a start. That boy can run, boy.
Yeah. And a touch on Sanders there. He's clearly becoming Keenum's go-to guy, and he had the rushing touchdown in this one. But just Demaryius Thomas now, a third straight week of just nothing that blows you away. And he's getting older. He's getting slower. I believe I touched on this last week. He doesn't have the speed that he once had, and that is hurting him. So I think when it's all said and done, I think Sanders is going to easily trump Demaryius Thomas at the end of the year for fantasy points.
I can see that happening for sure. I mean, I don't see him taking a step back unless he gets injured or beat up some player running through the slot, getting the medicine balls. But Case Keenum doesn't seem like that quarterback that he's had Simeon and, the other clunkers in the past. So definitely see some improvement on that side of the ball. Just to quickly fall back to the Lions and Patriots, two guys I'm going to say that really impressed me and that are going to be something special for Detroit are Kenny Golladay, for one. I know you've touched on him a couple times in the past couple weeks, and, man, the guy just got size and some speed, and he's solid.
Yeah, I think those three guys there in Detroit with Golladay, Jones, and Tate, I think they're pretty much a safe play every week, especially if you have a three-receiver league or a flex spot. They're pretty much going to always be top 30 plays. And the only other team I would even think about that is the LA Rams, who have Cooks, and we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, Cooks, Woods, and now and Cooper Kupp. So those two teams, if you have those guys, you play them, and Golladay now shooting, his value is skyrocketing, and he looks really, really good, and Stafford trusts him. And, I mean, he's got the size and ability to be a hell of a player.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting here, and something that corner's going to be having a field day with, just trying to catch up to him. One guy who I think, we talked about earlier in the preseason, who's starting to get the handoff a little bit more, starting to take more time away from Riddick. Kerryon Johnson, man. First, and this is the biggest thing of the game. Yeah, you had the upset. Patricia beat his mentor, but Kerryon Johnson became the first 100-yard rusher since Thanksgiving in 2013. That's fucking absurd, man.
Yeah, that's so long. I mean, you're talking almost 5 years worth of football for the Lions where they didn't have a 100-yard rusher. And, I mean, 100 yards in a game, like especially nowadays, if you get a lead and you just kind of pound it and you get that 100 yards pretty easily. You can sit there and go through the list from their last time, all the guys that have rushed for 100 yards, and you're going to see names that just blow you away. Like, that guy did it, but Detroit hasn't had a guy. I mean, it's pretty remarkable for something to last that long in today's NFL. High-powered offenses and all these, big-time, yards and scoring and all that. And, I mean, good for them. I mean, and you said Riddick, it needs to take a backseat. Blunt is just... He just needs to get goal line. That's it.
Yeah,
he does not need to be getting first or second down.
And I feel like they were trying to split it in there, a little revenge game, but it didn't work.
Yeah, and I think Kerryon from this point on, you're going to see a lot more of him, and this won't be his last 100-yard game.
And all you boners out there who named your team name Kerryon your wayward son, please go jump off a cliff because that is just awful.
I like it.
And you would.
I like it. I like it.
Moving on to a couple crazy things that kind of happened this week. We talked about in the beginning of the year when the rookie QBs were going to step forward. And we knew it was going to happen sometime this year. And we thought, it's going to happen pretty early. And, not to our surprise, Baker Mayfield steps up as Cleveland's starting quarterback. Josh Allen just beat the best team that everyone's calling the best Super Bowl prediction right there. You know what I mean? outside of the Rams. But Josh Rosen kind of surprised, came in here in the fourth quarter against the Bears. And I was just joking around saying Josh Allen was going to be in at the end of Sunday night, and I'm like, oh, this dipshit's going to come back and beat the Bears. A big-ass nose. And then, obviously Sam Darnold has been starting for a while. So now that, we always want to put that on the same playing field, which one of those 4 guys do you think is going to have the best year from here on out, starting in week 4?
Well, I think the clear answer is going to be Baker Mayfield. I think he's got the best set of weapons of the 4.
Yeah.
Josh Rosen doesn't really have anything going for him offensively there except for obviously Fitz and David Johnson, and they just can't figure out how to use David Johnson because Mike McCoy is apparently an idiot and
That's
takes him out.
Yeah.
Takes David Johnson out on a 3rd and 2 play late in the game and gives it to Chase Edmonds. So I don't know. If I'm an NFL play caller, I want my best guys on the field at all times. But so Josh Rosen's clearly on the other end of the spectrum there as far as talent and what I think he'll be able to do. But Baker Mayfield, you talk about Jarvis Landry and David Njoku and Antonio Callaway. They got a decent running game, so I think he's going to have a good run at it. And I think he's got that that competitive edge to be the guy. He's like, you know what? I was the first pick. I'm going to go out and prove that the Browns didn't make a mistake.
Yeah.
And he's got a little chip on his shoulder because he had to sit for 2.5 games and not get out there right away like he should have been. I mean, the Browns could be 3-0 right now if Baker's out there, if he is the real deal. And if you look at Cleveland's upcoming schedule, it's a lot of bad defenses.
Oh, yeah.
They got the Bucks, they got the Chiefs, they got the Steelers coming up. So I think he can be in for a really nice stretch here.
The only thing that I think would derail him, maybe slow him up in those weeks, is he going to be ready to be in a shootout? Because, that's what it's going to be all about there. So that could happen. But I agree. I think Baker Mayfield definitely has the best weapons around him. Josh Allen, more of a fluke in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't see that happening again. Yeah, McCoy was out, but at this point, I really don't think McCoy's that good anymore. You know what I mean? And Rosen, now that was an interesting subject there because I think, for one, Bradford was just so goddamn awful that the Cardinals just needed to do something different. And this was the game that they needed to make that switch. I'll agree with it for sure. So you could fresh start this week, give him a full week of practice in. But I think he may be able to kind of boost, and I'm not saying a major boost, but I'm saying he's going to be able to help David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, and Kirk out as far as their fantasy points. I think that he's definitely going to maybe open up the field a little bit more, make a little bit wiser decisions, not be hobbling around with some busted-ass knees and get out of the pocket.
Not be afraid to take a hit. I mean, he's still young. He can rebound where Sam Bradford takes a hit.
I mean, he's going to have his mistakes.
You wonder if it's his last hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. And then Sam Darnold, guy just hasn't impressed me here. He's kind of wishy-washy. Could he turn around? All the talk of Le'Veon Bell and the Jets, throwing offers out there. Bad fit for Le'Veon Bell owners, but it would be good for Sam Darnold because he definitely kind of up his area there. Man, as far as storylines, you got anything else that you think is even worth talking about? I mean,
we spent so much time talking about him last week.
Yeah.
But I guess Cleveland got their first win and free beer in Cleveland, so
hope you like Bud Light.
Economy's based on LeBron James. Buy a house for the price of a beast. Our main export is crippling depression. We're so retarded that we think this is art. It could be worse, though. At least we're not Detroit.
yeah, I mean, Detroit and Cleveland are not the best cities, but football-wise, I mean, Detroit looks like they're maybe turning it around after that embarrassing opening week. And, Cleveland, maybe they are finally figuring it out here. They got the guy in at quarterback. They got their first win in, I don't know, 2 years. But
a long time.
I really wanted to say something else there.
A long fucking time. And kudos to Cleveland, Glad you got it. I'm happy for Hugh. Hugh deserved it. I know he's been trying to kind of get something together here, I feel like, with the acquisitions. And I've been kind of high on what they have done after a million first-round draft picks that they've been able to actually accrue something that can move forward. So, I think Cleveland could be on the up of approaching 500, this year. But like I said, it's all going to be how Baker Mayfield adapts.
Yeah, and I think he'll be, like we said, he'll be pretty good here. And now, early on, we were talking about you. I know you said you had him pegged for 7-8 wins, something like that. I think they can get there if Baker is the real deal here. But he's still a rookie. He's still got a lot to learn. Tape's going to get out on him. He's going to have to, see certain defenses that he's never seen before, blitz packages and all that stuff that he's going to have to learn on the fly here. So there could still be a struggle. I mean, he is still a rookie. So let's not anoint them as the AFC North champions or anything.
Not at all. Not at all. But like I said,
it's a step in the right direction.
It is. And I'm sure that, sometimes you got to get one foot up to kind of get over that mountain. And I think that this may be something that, okay, now we call that a winning streak. And then it ends there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But on top of all those kind of interesting assets that happened this past week, I think the injury report was pretty significant. You know what I mean? You've had one or two guys here or there, but let's start off first. Jimmy G.
Yeah, this hurts not only the 49ers as a team and trying to get to the playoffs for the first time in a while, but it hurts all 49er players in fantasy.
Yeah.
Kittle, Goodwin, Breida, who was looking really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all these guys are definitely going to be knocked down a couple notches as far as where they're ranking week to week, because we've seen C.J. Beathard. It wasn't pretty last year. So unless, he got to sit behind Jimmy G for the last, obviously these 3 weeks and the last 6-7 games, whatever it was last year, and he started to learn something, I just don't know how good he's going to be where he's going to elevate these guys. So if you have Goodwin and Kittle and Breida, you can't throw them away.
Yeah,
don't
not all hope is lost. They're going to get touches. Kittle especially coming in with
you have to give them a week here, week or two here, see what they're going to do. And worst case scenario for you, especially if you got Kittle or Goodwin, they're going to be a bye week fill-in for you probably. The tight ends are so wishy-washy anyway that Kittle might be okay if he gets you 5 points a week. And him and Beathard actually played at Iowa together in college, so there is familiarity there. So maybe he is a guy that could kind of be productive with this new offense going forward now.
Well, let's look at the opposite side of the ball there. Let's look at teams who are coming in, offensive teams and offensive players who are coming in to play that San Francisco defense. They weren't god-awful, you know what I mean, in the first 3 games. But the problem is now they're going to be one of them teams that's on the field constantly. And all of those, players are just going to have a field day here. Yeah, they could hold up a couple first quarters. It's like, oh, it's going to be a little bit close. And then all of a sudden, I think they're just going to let loose on them. So I think that's something to definitely, when you're thinking about, who you got coming into San Fran, man.
That's the thing you always have to look. A bad offense is going to eventually, put the defense on the field, put them in vulnerable positions late in the game, and they're going to be tired. So the opposing offenses should have a good game. And right off the bat, San Francisco, without Jimmy G, they have to go up against the Chargers in that high-powered offense. So you're going to see, this could be a good thing for guys like Kittle and Goodwin, like we said, that they're going to have to throw it because the Chargers are just going to jump on top of them, and it's going to be 21-0 in the blink of an eye.
Sure.
And that could be a good thing. So I think right now, though, like you said, any team that's playing them, go ahead and get those guys in your lineup. If you're teetering between 2 guys and one guy's playing the Niners, throw them out there. I mean, it can go for, there's a lot of good matchups you kind of play on, but it's not like the Niners' defense was all that good. But now that their offense is so much worse, their defense is going to take a big step back as well.
And even talking about that, for example, guys playing them, I think a matchup you got to look at this week is someone who should I start? You get Austin Eckler in there, right? You could assume that, okay, the Chargers are going to be possibly beating them by 3 touchdowns somewhere in the second, third quarter. They're not going to risk Melvin Gordon going out there to, bump up his stats. So Eckler's going to go out there and have a field day, possibly. And he's done good in the past weeks, even against better matchups. So I think he's going to be a nice start here this week. And depending on how the game rolls, I think no matter what, he's going to be able to fill them shoes here.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the big injury of the week. couple other injuries to look at. The Thursday night game is going to have. Immediately, I saw this was a Thursday night game, and I just said to myself, "Why? Why are we putting this prime time matchup?
Yeah.
These two great teams that you expect to be playing each other."
But I am happy because it's
January.
not a shitty game.
Yes, but you're still talking about two really good teams you want to see with a full week of preparation.
Better than the fucking Browns and Jets.
I understand that, but again, like, why would you put these two teams? Like, I'm okay with that. If that's, I'm okay with two bad teams because I know it's going to be bad. That way, if I don't sit down and watch the first quarter, I'm not upset. You know, I don't think, oh, I missed this play. Like the Browns Jets game, it was so bad for the first half.
Oh yeah.
So I missed it. I was golfing and I didn't get home until the second half. So I got home and I got to see a good second half. But this, now I feel like I got to sit down. I got to watch this whole game because this is two of the best teams in the league. And I mean, I hate the fact that they're playing. But with that said, you have Aqib Talib, who has a high ankle sprain, is looking like he's going to have surgery on it. And Marcus Peters strained his calf, and he's going to miss this game as well.
The super team is falling apart, man.
So all of a sudden, you look at that matchup and say, well, Diggs, Thielen, that's tough with those two corners out there. Well, I don't have to worry about those guys. So now they could be, and this is going to be, the running game's still going to have problems because you still have Donald and Sue up the middle.
Yeah.
So it might be a game where Cousins has to throw it a bunch and get those two guys involved because the secondary is going to be weak.
Yeah. I'm picturing Cousins having a bounce back week here. And, you know, they're saying Cook's questionable, which I don't think he's going to play. I think they're going to hold him out another week here and just see what they can do without him. Another guy kind of stepped back, and I got to kind of tip my cap. There was a trade in my one of my leagues, one of the many leagues, unfortunately, that I'm in. I'm laying a goose egg right now at 0-3, but I get to laugh at other people's demise when they make a trade, and now they're kicking themselves in the dick about it. So, Nick, you know, the guy who laid the amazing track for us for our intro, he was able to acquire James Conner for Evan Ingram. Yeah. So, Belt, sorry, brother. You had a good squad, and you just handed it away.
Here's what you don't do. You don't trade for a tight end not named Gronk, Ertz, or Kelsey because they're all interchangeable after those three. I mean, Ingram's nice, but you can go get someone off the waivers that may not be Ingram's level, but at any moment he can get you, 11-point week, 50 yards and a touchdown. So don't ever make a trade for a tight end. Like I said, that's not one of those three guys. And now, of course, Ingram, sprained his MCL. He's going to miss a couple of weeks probably. So that's a really bad trade, and this makes it hurt even more.
Yeah.
So Ingram's going to miss a few weeks there.
Yeah. And I think at that point, could spread things out here for the wide receivers, I think maybe their output's going to pick up a little bit more, even the running game,
Oh, yeah.
Saquon.
Yeah, he should get
Saquon the
20
chef.
more carries and receptions. The other injuries, let's see, we got A.J. Green tweaked his groin. His status for week 4 is unclear. Joe Mixon's probably going to be out another week, so ride Gio. Gio's got a much better matchup this week against Atlanta. Speaking of Atlanta, their defense is already banged up. Now Ricardo Allen, their other safety, is done for the year. So they've lost 3 starting defenders for the year. Go ahead and play everyone against Atlanta every single week. I mean, third receivers, second receivers, tight ends, running backs, play those guys. And then the last one I have here, Muhammad Wilkerson with the Packers.
Yeah.
He's done for the year now. He messed up his ankle, and he's going to be out for the year. So
See ya.
that's going to be, I guess, Clay Matthews is going to have to get more pressure on the quarterback, but can't tackle him. I don't know. You gotta read him a story and put him to sleep and hope they fall down. That's the only way he can sack them.
Pillow padding. No, and the fact that you mentioned that there, Clay Matthews, we talked last week and saying, oh yeah, that was a shitty flag, and then this week was even worse. It's like, God damn, how do you want these fucking guys to tackle? You know what I mean? Like,
Miami.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
what I was kind of leading into was William Hayes. I mean, obviously you got to be pissed off here. You got a guy who goes to sack the quarterback and do what the dipshits in the NFL fucking say, and next thing you know, he tears his ACL. It's like, what's next? You know what I mean? Like, it's frustrating, man. Just like the helmet rule in preseason. Hopefully they're really going in there and saying, all right, guys, we're idiots. Someone's going to eventually kick our ass because we're making so many fucking wrong calls and, throwing the Vegas odds is true. So, but one other injury I kind of want to touch on was Sherman got a little bit banged up.
Yeah, he's going to
And,
miss a couple weeks as well.
Yeah,
And
with him
again,
being out, it
San
goes back to the
Francisco.
San Francisco thing. So I'm thinking Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, big games for them there. So something to keep an eye on there.
One other thing I wanted to touch on, Monday night game, Vance McDonald had the 75-yard touchdown run. I'm sure
Chris Conti.
I'm sure you saw the stiff arm.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden now Chris Conti finds himself on IR. So
That boy got fucking dissed.
I love it because as soon as it happened, like on Twitter, they're showing pictures of 3, 4, 5 other times Chris Conti as a bear just got stiff-armed and just shoved out of the way like, boy, get out of my face. And now he's done for the year because Vance McDonald just took his manhood.
I was kind of surprised it was still relevant, too. Every year I'd see him, like, starting for Tampa Bay. I'm like, all right, they must really fucking suck.
Well, I was surprised. He has now started over 90 games in his career. I mean, that's something in the NFL if you're going to start that many games. Not play, because you can play special teams. You can get a few snaps here or there. He started 90 games in his career right now.
On a shitty team. A couple shitty teams.
Yeah, I understand that. But still, I mean, to play in the NFL, because there's always going to be someone younger, faster, better that's going to take your spot, but not him. And, I mean, I know he's not a lot of Bears' favorite player, but you got to give a man props that can play for 9 seasons in the NFL.
You can, but we won't. Well, that kind of wraps up the injury report. Kind of the stories from week 3. Got a little something you want to get into, brother?
Yeah, I just got a quick stat of the week here. Our Ryan Fitzpatrick's still doing his thing. You're going to see him this week against the Bears. Air yards, total yards, the ball has gone from his hand to the receiver's hand from the line of scrimmage. He has 820 air yards through 3 games. So the ball, I mean, it doesn't count yards after the catch and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He has 820. His second place in the league right now, 576. So he is throwing the deep ball, throwing it effectively, throwing it well. So this could be an interesting match if he gets the time, and that's a big question going against the Bears.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you the one thing that Pittsburgh did right last night was they were blitzing the shit out of him. Everyone was getting in there. And it got to a point when all of a sudden they kind of stopped, dropped back a little bit on a 3rd and 20, and they gave him that time to create something. It's not like he doesn't got any receivers out there. I mean, he's got some good guys as far as good tight ends, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I seen him drop back and just let that, and I was playing him, too. And I had his long shot in hell, right? But Big Ben, I had a couple of solid guys, and I'm like, I might have a chance. And then I'd see that ball go up in there, and I'm like, where's fucking Evans at? Oh, there he is. But, yeah, I mean, Fitzpatrick, you're going to get your ass kicked. Man, when you meet Mr. Mack, he's going to fuck you up. Going to fuck up your world, boy, like Debo.
Yeah, I think Evans, you just mentioned Evans. I think he's happy with Fitzpatrick. I don't think he wants Winston back because he's having a renaissance, basically. He's coming back, finally doing things again. He's catching deep balls because that's what Fitzpatrick will throw. So,
and there was a lot of drops, too. I mean, that game should have been...
Yeah,
I really think
had a couple.
Yeah, in the end zone. And, yeah, we'll see what happens. But at this point, even though he's been on 7 different teams in 14 years, you got to give the guy credit that he's, riding it out in style. Well, that wraps up last week. Is it all right now? We good?
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little nibble? Okay. Now we're going to roll into one of our favorite segments here, kind of picking apart our friends in our fantasy league when, I guess at this point in one of my leagues, sitting at 0-3, I should be asking you who I got because I ain't got nothing. So who you got? We're going to go with the QB here. First off, we got Derek Carr against Cleveland or Kirk Cousins rolling in to Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, so this is always a tough one with a Thursday night game. I'm not a fan of playing borderline guys in that game. Now, if Peters and Talib were healthy and good to go, yeah, I would definitely shy away from Cousins. But like you said, I think he's going to want to come out and prove that, last week was just a fluke. They might have been overlooking the Bills a little bit, and they're going to come out and set the world on fire and say, hey, we are the team to beat in the NFC. And as far as Carr goes, I don't feel very strongly about what that Oakland offense is right now. And the Browns defense, we mentioned it, of course, last week, that they are better and they are a good defense. So I shy away from Carr here and definitely go with Cousins, even though it's Thursday night against one of the best teams in the league.
Respectable.
All right, sir. Well, your quarterback conundrum: Stafford taking on the Cowboys down in Dallas, or Matt Ryan at home against the Bengals.
Now, I'll tell you what, as poor as the Cowboys' offense has been playing, I will give credit to their defense because they have been playing pretty solid. They've been the only one that has kept them close in certain games. But at this point, I don't think that Stafford's weapons are going to really transfer over there. Kerryon Johnson, yeah, you may see a little bit more of him. But I think Matty Ice against a weaker Bengals defense, especially with Matty Ice's freaking weapons. You know what I mean? Ridley came out of nowhere last week, man. Just freaking tore it up. And I think that's who we got to roll with there, man. I think that's exactly what we got to roll with.
All right. You were talking about the Cowboys defense. One thing, Sean Lee, their starting linebacker,
Yeah.
he's going to miss some time too. We didn't touch on that in the injury report, but
That's typical for Sean Lee.
yeah, exactly.
Surprised he even played a game this year. All right, running back. Now, this is an interesting one here, especially with the bye week starting to come up. I think these are some waiver wire pickups in the past couple of weeks. One was previous, and one is kind of this week's one of their major ads. Phillip Lindsay rolling in or at home against Kansas City, or Buck Allen going into Pittsburgh in a division game.
Okay, you mentioned the bye weeks. This is the first week of the bye weeks. We have Panthers and Redskins are on the bye this week. So we'll get that out of the way. Now, for this question here, Lindsay, that's Monday Night Football, the KC-Denver game. What worries me is Lindsay got ejected from the last game for throwing a punch against the Ravens. And right now, with the way that dynamic has worked with him and Freeman, it's the hot hand. So I worry a little bit that there might be a little bit of punishment there where they give Freeman the first opportunity and they
Even
let him
dabble
go.
a little bit of Booker coming in the fucking.
Yeah, so that kind of scares me there. I know KC's defense isn't very good, but I think that even though Denver's defense is good, I think Mahomes has established that he can go toe-to-toe with anybody. So I think that's going to be a shootout. Therefore, I think maybe the running game takes a back seat. So with that being said, I'm actually going to go with Buck Allen here, even though Lindsey might outtouch him. But I think Buck Allen's going to get majority of the goal line, red zone stuff. For whatever reason, they go to him down there. And again, Pittsburgh, not a good defense either. So I think in that big game, and that's the Sunday night game too. So
And you got to think too, if they're down, Alex Collins, Brenton's number one pick.
yeah, Alex Collins
Ain't
will be
gonna
off
be
the
getting this,
field.
yeah.
Buck Allen will be in there getting all the receptions. So yeah, I'll take Buck Allen in that one just because I'm afraid of Lindsey might be kind of in the doghouse a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Respectable.
All right, for your running back here, I got a 3-pack. I need one of them. I got LaShawn McCoy going up to Green Bay. Isaiah Crowell's going down to Jacksonville. Or Carlos Hyde going across the country to Oakland.
Well, I'm going to get rid of McCoy right off the bat. For one, I don't trust him. He may not even play with his rib injury. And coming into the Packers, where they're pretty pissed off right now. You know what I mean? Couple calls. You talk about some chips on your shoulder, man. They're going to... Clay Matthews, I think, is going to eat some people up there. Now, going into Crowell. Crowell's an interesting guy here because I know they're talking about who's really the main back there, him or Powell. Now, Crowell has been getting... you turn it on and Crowell's been getting some good 15-yard runs, getting in the end zone. But I just think last week, especially against the Jaguars, it's just not going to happen as it should. And Carlos Hyde with the new quarterback, got a fresh set of legs. I think he's going to be someone that's going to be hammering down on the Raiders, especially the way their offense has been playing.
All right. Yeah, I like Hyde here. He had a good week last week on Thursday, so maybe he continues rolling. He's not getting any pressure or any challenge from Chubb, so it's all his right now.
Wide receiver, I got Emmanuel Sanders at home against KC, or Will Fuller going into Indianapolis.
Yeah, this guy's in a great spot here because these are two really good players, and they're two really good matchups. We talked about Sanders, the Broncos, and KC being Monday Night Football. And I just mentioned, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Keenum's going to have a good game, go out there and hit Sanders quite a bit. Sanders proving he can do it both receiving and rushing the football now, so they're going to use him in a lot of different ways. Fuller has, he's become Watson's go-to guy. I mean, obviously you have Hopkins there, But when Hopkins has that double coverage, which he's going to get a lot, you can feel good about throwing to Fuller, and I think Watson obviously does, and Indy's not a very good defense. So this is a tough spot because you do have two guys that I would start without question, but if you can only go one of them, I'm going to go with Sanders here because I think when you look at the guy opposite him, like I said, DT, I think he's on the downward trend here, and I think Sanders is clearly becoming Keenum's guy, where Fuller's really good, and like I said, he's got a good rapport with Watson.
Yeah.
But you never know when it's just Hopkins, and Hopkins just blows
up. Yeah.
So I think the safer play is Sanders.
I like that. And it pissed me off because I've had him in like past 2 years leagues, and DT just held it down, and I just like, whoop.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. Not happening this year.
All right, our final who you got here. My wide receivers for you. Cooper Kupp on that Thursday night game, hosting the Vikings. Quincy Enunwa, he's going down to Jacksonville. Tyler Boyd, a surprise play last week, had a really good game. They're going down to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Or Tyler Lockett at the Cardinals. Just need one of these four.
Cooper Kupp, I think the Vikings are definitely due to bounce back here this week. And I think Harrison Smith, they got a strong secondary back there. And, he could get past one of the corners, and now the corners are kind of getting a little bit. They're not up to par as they were the past couple of years. But their secondary is so strong there that I don't think that he's going to have an advantage on that side of the ball. Robert Woods has been playing hella ball over there. And when he's playing that good, Jared Goff's going to keep throwing his way. You know what I mean? Now, Inoue, Jaguars, you just got to cross that off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just too tough. I mean, he's shown that he's Darnold's favorite target, but the bottom line is it ain't happening, man. You just got to mention the Jaguars and their secondary, their defense in general. Boyd, I like. Boyd's a guy that kind of came out of nowhere. A couple guys snuck up and picked him up the past couple weeks. I mean, he's been on a handful of waiver wires still, and I definitely got him lined up for tomorrow morning. Got my fingers crossed. But you talked about the Falcons' defense. They're just dropping like flies, and I think he's my play. Tyler Lockett, I think he's going to have a good game at the Cardinals, so he would be a fallback, if something crazy were to happen. But I got to go with Boyd, man.
Yeah, I like that too, especially with Green being a little banged up here. May not play. No. I think it's better if Green does play because
I agree.
It takes it off.
If he doesn't play, then I think I would lean towards Lockett, honestly.
And Lockett, again, too, to his side, I mean, Baldwin is getting closer to coming back. He might play. So if Baldwin plays, Lockett's probably going to take a back seat. But, yeah, I think if Boyd's in there, if Boyd's the number one guy, even if it is Atlanta, they're going to try to shut him down. That could be a bad thing for him. But if Green's in there, it's a good play for Boyd.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that was who you got here. And before we get into our top picks for this week, I want to touch on who the surprising stars were for last week. I know we kind of kicked last week to the curb, but we had some pretty fair plays, and I'll tell you what, that wide receiver position was a bizarro world, man.
Yeah.
Bizarro. So going into them top three QBs,
Well,
shootout alone, Drew Brees and
your
Matty
boy.
Ice, man.
Yeah.
That was a fun game to watch, man.
Oh, yeah.
Fun game. And matter of fact, the top three all came from the same division at NFC South in my eyes. You know what I mean?
And I'm assuming you got Fitzpatrick as your third then. And that's exactly my three: Breeze, Ryan, and Fitzpatrick.
Actually, Fitzpatrick is my third, but it's crazy that their whole division was the best last week.
Cam Newton, I believe, had 2 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns, something like that. So that division just, and this is the division with really good quarterback play. And we weren't expecting this from Fitzpatrick, obviously. But
he's definitely oddball.
The Breeze, Ryan, and Newton are all guys. I mean, hell, you picked Breeze to be your MVP. I picked Newton to be my MVP. I mean, you're talking about Breeze and Ryan, 396, 374 yards, 8 passing touchdowns. I think they had 8 incompletions, too. I heard that at some point during the broadcast when they had 8 touchdowns and 8 incompletions combined. That's absurd. And it speaks to their defenses they're going up against. So, again, go up against those 2 defenses, play all those guys. And then, of course, Breeze with that unbelievable rushing touchdown at the end of the
I couldn't believe
regulation.
I'm like, really?
He just little spin move like, okay, I'll walk into the end zone and tie this thing up. So yeah, that was a really fun game, and I think anytime you get a high scoring game,
You sound like Coach Pastor a little bit. essentially.
I've been hanging around with them so much this summer.
I
so
hear you. Love your coach.
Yeah, but I think anytime you get a high scoring game like that, it's always fun. And, we got to see a division matchup go toe to toe. These two great quarterbacks and two great offenses go toe to toe. And, the funny thing is, who's missing from all this? Julio Jones. Where are you? You gonna score a touchdown?
Yeah.
Only Mohamed Sanu can throw touchdowns to him, apparently. So,
Well, moving on to the running backs, to touch on 2 or 3 more guys from that division here. First off, Alvin Kamara. Guy is the guy's a bad dude. Only concerns I would have as an owner is, yes, Ingram's going to be coming back here in 2 weeks, but that's really going to be good for you for your sake, because he's not going to get injured in week 7 or 8 at that point. Not going to get overworked, and you really need that. But at this point, he's shown that, listen, I'm the guy, and this is my team. So, man.
Yeah, Kamara had
Stud.
16 carries this week, and when Ingram does get back, it'll drop probably single digits. But his use in the passing game won't go down. He had 20 targets. He caught 15 of them for 124 yards. So all told, he had 190 yards. And you know what? If you can get that kind of production from your running back, even if he's not scoring a touchdown, in today's NFL, that's really good because you're seeing all these passing touchdowns. So you're not getting a whole lot of rushing touchdowns from anybody not named Todd Gurley. So Kamara really, really strong. And the other guy I'm assuming you're talking about
McCaffrey.
is McCaffrey. The thing that jumps off the page here is 28 carries. For a guy that everyone said...
Remember I was talking shit about him? He's got to prove that he can run between the tackles,
that was the thing. They were worried about how much he can handle and all that. 28 carries. Not for 100, something like 184 yards. So he didn't just get the carries and get 3 yards a carry. He got the big number of carries and went off. 184 yards is a great game. And the last guy I have is Adrian Peterson.
That's who I had. I had actually had him as, him and McCaffrey had similar point-wise, but I was more high on McCaffrey's yardage, given where he's at. But AP, man, found a youth, brother.
120 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wide receivers. Now, I know we're doing the top 3, but I had to do the top 5 due to just the ridiculousness of who were the top 5 receivers here. I mean, start thinking. Go ahead, Ridley. We talked about
the top 3 just blew me away because you have Calvin Ridley, rookie, and like we just said, Julio. Where are you? Calvin Ridley had 7 catches for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then my next guy was Robert Woods.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is the guy we talked about, the Rams. And the thing is, the Rams with Cooks and Kupp, you have to figure out where the targets are going. Now, Woods had 11, Cooks had 8, and Kupp had 6. I'm going to be doing this all season long just to give you a breakdown week to week of where this is going. And all of a sudden, Kupp's kind of taking that back seat a little bit, and Cooks is the home run guy, and Woods is becoming Goff's go-to guy. And then last I have is Jordy Nelson, who, I mean, I never thought we'd see this stat line from him again.
Yeah.
173 yards and a touchdown. Miami just and there was 2 big plays and then the touchdown. He was just completely unmarked. So I don't know if it was just they weren't respecting him.
He seems to have always had that, that feature where he just all of a sudden, like a Madden back in the day when they would show a guy who was open, he's like waving.
Yeah.
That's what he would do against the Bears, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? What are we playing with? 10 people?"
Well, that was usually when Rodgers would scramble out and they would break off their route and he'd get open. But this was just him running his route and nobody was guarding him.
And to touch on a couple more, obviously we had last night. Mike Evans kind of tore it up with them bombs that he had, but a couple people just to mention, Tyler Boyd talked about it since he had a huge game, and you mentioned Kamara and your top dogs there, and it's just real funky. Out of the top 5, you had 4 that were like, if you were going to tell me that those guys are going to be the top receivers, I was like, hey, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Michael Thomas is another one who had a good game. Of course, he always does. He has 38 receptions through 3 games. He's on pace to go.
Broke Julio's record, right?
Yeah, he's on pace to go for over 200, which probably will regress a little bit, obviously. But I mean, Marvin Harrison's record could be in danger this year.
Good.
Good.
Now we talked about the studs that were there. The ballers. What about the people who just dropped off, man? Murray Cooper came in there the first week looking pretty decent, and then just like.
Well, the Raiders, week 1, it was Jared Cook had the big game.
I'm sorry, week 2, yeah.
Week 2 was Cooper, and now it's Jordy Nelson. So they don't have. I mean, I don't know if Carr just locks in on one guy or what the issue is there. But yeah, Cooper, just terrible game. And you start him thinking, okay, him and Carr got the connection, and man, he just sucked this week, and it was a tough play for anybody that had him in their lineup.
I agree. And a guy we talked about earlier, everyone started him thinking there, and it wasn't necessarily he fell, but it was a dumbass decision that's going to have consequences, and that was Philip Lindsay. You know what I mean? He definitely dropped off there, and we also mentioned Kirk Cousins, who just shit the bed, who's hoping to rebound here. So those are a couple guys I had as far as, and there was more. I don't know if you want to add to it.
Yeah, I think the big one for me was Latavius Murray. You have the Bills, of course. We talked about how bad they are, but Dalvin Cook is out. You got Murray going into that game as the guy, and not only was he not effective, I mean, he wasn't very effective with his couple of carries, but they also had another guy come. I think he's a rookie. Get 2 carries, so he wasn't even getting all the bulk of the work there. And of course, they got down really big early, so he was a big disappointment for me, as was Stephon Diggs. And those 2 guys just didn't do a whole lot there. And then the only other one kind of
we just say the Vikings in general.
Yeah, of course the Vikings. Thielen was pretty good if you played him, especially in PPR with 14 receptions, 105 yards. But
I tell you what, I picked up their new kicker. Because I'm like,
Dan
Bailey.
You got a nice big fat goose egg
Fucking
from him.
Goose egg, baby.
I had him in one league as well, and yeah, it has no.
Hopefully
good there.
that's not a residual right there. So.
And then the only other one I kind of looked at. The only one I kind of looked at was sorry. Don't do that to me. You can't do that this year.
He'll edit it.
Keenan Allen. I even brought him up to you. Against that Rams defense, is he a good play? And he only had 2 catches. He only got 40-some yards. He also fumbled. So, yeah, he was another one that kind of disappointed me there. Or, you know what? How about New England? Gronk, Brady, another big disappointing week for those 2 guys. So,
okay.
I love it.
Do you want to go through anyone else in the league?
I love it.
Stat boy. Well, now that we went through last week, let's dig into this week here, our top 3. So give me them straight up. Who you got? 1, 2, 3 for QB.
I went with Carson Wentz as my top dog. I think another weekend now. I think he was really good last year. No. Going to Tennessee, he's going to continue to roll, and he's my top guy here. And then I'm going Phillip Rivers. We talked about this earlier. San Francisco's defense is going to be on the field a lot. They're missing Richard Sherman. Phillip Rivers could be in for a huge day. And then lastly, Matt Ryan, another situation where the defense isn't very good.
Yeah,
he could get into a shootout. It's not like Cincinnati is a world beater defensively; they're average at best. So I think Matt Ryan should have a nice day as well.
I like that. My number 1 is we mentioned it. You mentioned I was talking about a lot as far as going into San Francisco is Phillip Rivers, or hosting San Francisco. I think he's going to have a big game here. Hopefully, it doesn't get too far out of hands that. In the third quarter, they got his back up in there trying to save his arm. So, hoping to rack up some fancy points on that perspective here. Patrick Mahomes. Now, I've seen this guy, and it's been depressing as hell as a guy who's cheering for Mitch Trubisky. But the kid's just good, man. I got to give the guy credit here, and I really want to see what he can do there. I know they're going into Denver, and this could be what settles him down, says, hey, let's quiet this MVP talk that everyone's getting on the hype train about. But I got to go with the guy, man. All signs are pointing to yes. I mean, Tyreek Hill, and they're going to roll into a tougher week next week. So I think at that point, Mahomes got to be your guy. And Drew Brees going into the Giants. I mean, like I said, he's been my guy. I've been riding along with him all year. And I know, Collins is a good safety that they got back there. Kind of just QB spying, but I think Brees has just got the weapons, man. When you got a team with weapons, just kind of like Mahomes and Rivers for that matter. And I know these are just, you're going to pick some of the top quarterbacks. But I'm sorry, man. They got hella talent around them, and I think the matchup's right. Who you got on the running back side of things?
Well, I think anyone that's been patient with David Johnson, it's going to pay off for you this week. He's my top guy here. I think there's no excuse for him not being on the field in big spots or not being on the field for the majority of the plays. I think Seattle isn't a very good defense, and I think he's going to have a big game against them.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Jordan Howard. He finally scored a touchdown, and he got a good number of carries against Arizona, but they got down early there, and it was kind of like, all right, well, what's going to happen with the run game? Are they going to go away from it? Now this week against a bad Tampa, I think he could just go nuts, and I think he will. I know Gerald McCoy's there, and he's pretty good run stuffer, but I think Jordan Howard's in for the big game here. And lastly, I'm going to go with Gio. You got a taste of Gio last week against Carolina. Now he's going up against Atlanta, and we talked about Atlanta a lot with their defense. So Gio Bernard is my number 3.
Real quick, I'm going to go with Mel Gordon, obviously running to San Francisco. I think the opportunity is going to be there. Hopefully, and this is one of the wishy-washy situations that I'm thinking about is if Rivers throws for a handful of touchdowns and all of a sudden the game's already out of the loop, it could bite you in the ass, and, Eckler steps up into that role. Kamara is a guy who I think you have to go with your number 1. Not to state the obvious, but guy's just a stud. And I think coming into the last week before Ingram's going to be coming back, look for Kamara to kind of make sure he cements his role and says, hey, this is my team. And I agree with you. David Johnson, I got him in the league. It sucked. But I think, truth be told, Rosen's going to definitely, not going to have a huge effect on him, but he's going to definitely change things up a little bit. And Seattle's defense ranked 30th in the league. Not looking too good against the run.
For sure.
Wide receivers.
Real quick, 2 guys we touched on earlier and who you got. I got Sanders as my number 1 guy going against KC. Bad defense. Eric Berry's probably still out, so Sanders is my guy there. And then, Will Fuller. He's got a good rapport with Watson. Indy's bad. They're in a dome. Give me him all day. And then lastly, I'm going to go with Golden Tate here. I think this is a game. You got Galladay, you got Jones. They've really become pretty decent there. But I think without Sean Lee in the middle of the field, I think Golden Tate there in the slot could have a really nice day attacking the middle of the field there and being Stafford's go-to guy.
I like it. My number 1 is Emmanuel Sanders. Sucks because I'm playing him in 2 leagues, and I'm like, shit. But the guy just got it, man. He's just been tearing it up. He's having an unreal year, and I think things are going to move forward with that weekend city defense, as you just mentioned. Keenan Allen rolling into San Fran. I think one way or another, things are going to roll his direction. He's going to need to come back from that tough Rams game. And, when you're playing against tough corners, you kind of pick up a lot of, when you play against good players, you only get better. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. And coming into a weak San Francisco squad, it's going to be a good lock here. And then the guy who's going to get his first touchdown pass of the year is ODB. I think ODB is going to have a really good game. And, with Ingram out, I think he's going to be the guy that gets a good 15 targets in that game here.
That could be a shootout.
Yeah.
We talked about New Orleans being in those.
Well, that wraps up our top 3. Obviously, I don't want to get into tight ends because at that point, your typical top 3 guys, and it's all a crapshoot from there. But
after that, it's just, will the guy get you a touchdown or not?
Yeah. Plus, we don't want to lose you guys talking about tight ends anyway. So
yeah, who's good and who's not at the tight end. We don't need to hold your hand.
But at this point, I think it's time we go with our top picks and our picks for the week. So why don't you start off, Brad?
Yeah, Thursday Night Football, Vikings and Rams in LA. I know Vikings got to travel to the West Coast, but I think they are going to answer all the doubts that we had following the Bills game here, and they're going to go out there and they're going to show up and they're going to take care of business and win this game. Minnesota.
TCOB, baby. I am going to I'm going to go with the Rams just for points because I'm back. No, I really think that the Vikings do got a little bit of something to play against, but the whole Everson Griffin thing that happened here, he was a huge part of their line here, and tying a team together like that, albeit the Rams did lose their corners there, but they got such a strong front that if they can get the Cousins, and they got a great offense, so I think they could be the team. And I got to go against the Vikings, man. I can only hope they lose 2 weeks in a row.
It's a good pick too because home teams on the short week on the Thursday night typically do pretty well.
We got the Lions walking into the Cowgirls.
I think the Lions are going to continue to roll here. I think Dallas is not a very good team. Their defense has been playing better than I expected, but now Lee's out again, so it's going to have to be Dak. And if you have to lean on that guy, you're going to lose. So give me Detroit.
I'm going to roll with you in Detroit too. I think that big big boost for their team and morality for one, just to kind of get on the up and up and say, hey, we beat the Pats. We can hang with all these guys, and Dallas sucks right now. So Cincinnati going into the Falcons.
I like Atlanta in this one. I think Matt Ryan's going to have a huge game, and he's going to get all his guys going yet again. So give me Atlanta to defend home field this time.
I'm going to also take Atlanta, and I'm going to get Julio up for 2 TDs in the first half.
Woo!
Philly going into Tennessee.
He's my number 1 quarterback this week, and that's Carson Wentz. And I think he's going to have a huge game. Ertz, Aguilar, their other tight end, Goddard. They're all going to have good games. So give me the Eagles. I'm
going to roll with the Eagles, too. Titans, God, you're awful. Tampa Bay stepping into Soldier Field.
Short week for Tampa. Now they got the bye week coming up after this one. So I think this is a good trap game here where they're just not ready. And Mac's going to go in there, and Mac is going to single-handedly put an end to the Fitz magic. And Trubisky's going to do just enough. He's a game manager. He's not a winner. And he's going to do just enough with that defense to get the W there in Chicago.
You know I'm going with the Bears, boy, and you're right. The miggity Mac, daddy, the miggity Mac. He's gonna rip his head off, boy. Is Evans gonna burn us for a couple TDs? Probably. But bottom line is,
at least you didn't pay a huge premium for a cornerback to get burned. Oh wait, you did.
Not cool, bro. Buffalo Bills going into the Packers. Do they got the same magic as last week?
This is my lock of the week. Buffalo does not have the same magic. Green Bay also got embarrassed last week, lost a game they should have won. So they're going to go in there. They're going to take care of the Bills. They're going to take care of it like the Vikings should have. Rodgers is going to have a good game. Yeah, Packers will win this one.
I'm going to go with the Packers, just with the chip on the shoulder, but Aaron Rodgers is going to go down, and he's going to go out for the year.
Every week.
Yeah, I was right last year, so I figured I could just throw it out there.
Well, it doesn't count if you say it every week.
But in that sense, I really think that if the Packers lose 2 more games here in the next 4 or 5 weeks, I think that they will definitely pull Rodgers for the rest of the season. Because I don't think it's going to be really worth it. Might as well get him healthy and throw in the towel. Jets rolling into the Jaguars.
This is another team that obviously we talked about disappointed last week, and the Jaguars, they're going to right the ship. They're also going to get the win. I don't think the Jets are very good. I think that opening matchup against the Lions is kind of a fluke. So Jaguars are going to steamroll and welcome to the NFL, Sam Darnold.
I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the Jags. I'm just bullshitting.
You can't go with the Jets.
Darnold sucks. Dolphins at the Patriots.
Patriots can't lose three in a row. If the Dolphins win this game, though, they are 3 games up on New England through 4. That would be great. But let's keep in mind, New England was 2-2 last year, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl. So to say New England's done is a little bit of a reach right now. So I think New England will right the ship here. They'll take care of business and get the W.
Okay. I'm going to also go with the Patriots. I think that they got to bounce back from that loss there. And I think if anything, that's going to really show what their season's going to be about. Dolphins, got to lose. 3-0. I know you're surprised, and you're going to keep betting against them if they keep losing, keep winning. So who wants a mustache ride? Texans coming down to Indy. I think Dot's going to be at that game. He's volunteering at the Colts Stadium.
Cool.
He's a Colts fan.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, you live in Indy, kind of just grows on you, too. You know what? This is a game that just screams to me Houston. They're 0-3. And they're going against a division rival. And Indy doesn't really do a whole lot for me. And Andrew Luck isn't 100% healthy, obviously, from the Hail Mary that Jacoby Brissett had to throw in that game. But I think Indy's going to find a way somehow, some way. They're going to go in there. They're going to defend home field, and they're going to keep rolling and keep Houston winless.
Okay. I think the opposite. I think the Houstons are going to kind of come in there, and I agree. Colonel Luck's definitely going to have his side piece this week. So we're going to go with Houston. Too many good receivers there. Seattle going in Arizona.
I like David Johnson to have a big game, but I think ultimately Rosen's going to, keep them, hold them back, and Seattle's going to get the victory because Russell Wilson is a MVP caliber player, and he's going to find a way to win this game.
I agree. I think Russie Wilson is going to be able to scramble a hell of a lot more than Mitch Trubisky did last week. And just being able to create plays, whether it's Lockett or Chris Carson steps up. I think the problem with the Bears last week is, Howard was running up the gut and doing a mighty fine job at some points. And I think Carson's the type of guy who can kind of split between the tackles and move the chains if necessary. So I'm going to go with Seattle. Cleveland sucks at the Raiders.
And the winning streak is stopped at 1. Cleveland does not travel across the country and beat the Raiders. I think Oakland finally gets their first win. And just because I think it's just fun to say Cleveland loses.
It is fun to say it, but at this case, I got to say they're going to take it this week. I think they're going to go over the Raiders, just the fact that Gruden, I just see his face just getting pissed off. And quite frankly, I don't think that Derek Carr's got it together here. And I don't think their defense has it together. And I'm not saying the Cleveland are well-rounded, but they just saying that. New Orleans Saints at the Giants.
I think this is a game that could easily be a shootout. New Orleans got a great offense, bad defense, but I don't think Eli is capable of winning that type of game at this point in his career, so I'll take the Saints.
I'm going to also roll with the Saints here. Enough said. Powerful weapons. My MVP. San Francisco going into the Chargers. We know where we're going with this one.
Yeah, not much to say. Chargers will take care of business.
Take care and eat, Jimmy. Baltimore at the Steelers.
One of the biggest rivalries in the NFL, and it's always been a fun matchup, especially with Harbaugh and Tomlin. Both have been there for a long time. I think the Ravens are going to win this. I don't think the Steelers are as good as they have been in the past, and I think the Ravens are surprising a lot of people, and Joe Flacco is going to somehow find a way to get the W.
I was thinking that route, but now that you're picking them, I'm going to go with the Steelers. I like the Steelers. I think their offense is good, and they just showed that they cannot tire out. And I think once they start watching film and realize how much they were pressuring the quarterback and kind of getting at him, that's going to be something that kind of pulls them away here. So Sunday night, Steelers are going to get that W. And finally, the Monday night extravaganza, the Chiefs at the Broncos.
I think this is a fun game, too, another division rivalry. And Denver, right there now, they had a tough loss against Baltimore. They probably should have won, but I think they're going to find a way. I think they're going to, first time Mahomes has to go up against a really good defense, and I think you're going to see them, confuse him, do some good things there, get after him. And this could be the time you sit there and you finally see Mahomes look like a second-year player, and I think Denver gets the win.
I'm going to have to go against you there, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Standing tall on Mahomes. I think he's got the potential to be the real deal. And, granted they are in Mile High, different altitude, all the different shenanigans that are going to play a factor here. But Keenum's really got to show that he can throw the rock and, to someone else besides Emmanuel Sanders. So at that point, KC, baby.
All right. If you're still listening out there, get on our Twitter feed at @fantasy_hustle. Throw us any questions you have, start sits, trade stuff, all that. We'd love to hear from you and give you feedback. If you're on the Twitter feed, you're going to see our voicemail line. That's 219-576-6797. Again, you want to call in and tell us how much you love John's voice. Feel free. We'd love to hear from you. Or give us an email at Jon G's Fantasy Hustle @gmail.com. Yeah, send us some mail saying, if you're such an expert, why you 0-3?
Peace, dick.